going to talk osteoporosis today. Last week we had a great time looking at core exercising, and we just put out myth about core exercising, some of the things that you can do, what you can do. Now you have knowledge if you watched it last week. But if you didn't, well, today you have an opportunity to learn about something new. Today we're looking at osteoporosis. What causes it? What can you do when you have it? What do you eat? How do you exercise if you have to? So I've been joined by two amazing young people who are into the study of osteoporosis. One, let me start off with the lady, Rukaya Obo. Rukaya, hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome. And Rukaya, you've been into school for how long? You're out of school now, right? Okay. All right. And so seated next to her is Emmanuel Bimpo.
Yes, please.
Okay, Emmanuel, hi. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Sports and exercising, UCC.
Yes, please.
Emmanuel, let me start off with you. What is osteoporosis?
Okay. So first of all, I would like to extend my greetings to my department, UCC, Sports and Exercise Science. And also to Pulse Fitness. That is why I can
What fitness?
Pulse Fitness.
Boss.
Pulse.
Pulse. Okay.
Yes, Pulse Fitness.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So to begin with, when we talk about osteoporosis, we are talking about a skeletal disorder that is characterized by low bone mass and also microarchitectural deterioration.
Okay.
That leads to low bone mass or bone tissue. So basically, what we are talking about is when you are having osteoporosis, your bone become brittle. So the rate at which the human body makes bone and then the rate at which the human body also absorbs bone is very less. And when that happens, it leads to osteoporosis. So normally people who have osteoporosis, the condition normally occurs at the wrist, the spine, and then the hips. These are the various places that osteoporosis normally, the wrist, the spine, and then the hip region. Although it could occur at various parts of the body. But the most prevalent places that osteoporosis normally occur are these places that I'm talking about.
Is there a reason why those are the particular spots that it likes to occur?
So the reason being that these particular joints that we are talking about, because in our normal daily movement and activities, there are a lot of pressure that are being placed on these body parts. So it increases the risk of getting fracture when someone has osteoporosis. That is why they are more likely places that's the condition normally. Okay,
so when we look at the image on the screen, so safe to say that on our right, that is a bone that has been affected by osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis, yeah.
The regular bone is the left, the gold, let's just say the gold image, that's okay.
Yeah, so osteo has to do with bone and porosis has to do with holes. Okay, so when you have osteoporosis, what happens to the bone is that if you look at the normal structure of the bone, it's very compact and very strong. But when you have osteoporosis, it happens that there are small minute holes that comes in the bone. And this makes it become less brittle and very weak. And this can lead to fracture when there is excessive pressure on the bone. So the bone becomes porous and very weak. And it normally occurs in women, older adults, people who are obese, and those who are overweight. And
women?
Yes.
So not men?
Well, men also have it, but the likelihood of women getting osteoporosis is very high compared to men.
Why? Has it got anything to do with the way women genetically formed?
Yes. So I think as we move on with the presentation,
you will understand
why. Yeah, we'll talk more into that.
Okay. So now let's look at the causes.
Okay. So looking at the causes, the first thing we would want to talk about is nutritional deficiencies.
Okay.
Yes. So nutrition actually plays a role as to how our bones become very strong.
Okay.
So naturally, the bone serves as a source of calcium bank.
Okay.
So we have a lot of calcium deposits in our bones.
Mm.
And then also vitamin D. So what happens is that when your body is lacking calcium and then vitamin D, it actually leads to your bone becoming very weak, because the bone actually feeds on this calcium nutrient we are talking about. So when you have it in limited supply, that means the bone is not getting the right amount of nutrition it needs to function effectively.
Okay.
And when that happens and you are lacking it, then that means your bone is becoming brittle and it could lead to fracture.
Okay, but how does the hormonal balance, how does that affect the bone?
Okay, so when we look at hormones, especially the sex hormones, so the females has the sex hormone we call estrogen.
Estrogen, yeah.
And estrogen actually plays a vital role in bone metabolism.
Mm.
So what happens is that when you take the bone, it has cells. So we have the osteocytes, which are matured bone cells. Okay. We have the osteoblasts, which are bone-forming cells. Okay. And then we have the osteoclasts, which are bone-destroying cells. Okay. So all these are found in our bones. And what happens is that estrogen helps to regulate the rate at which new bones are formed. Okay. So the bone is a living tissue, and every living tissue grows. So the old cells dies out, and then new cells are being formed. And the hormone estrogen, which is mostly found in women, plays a vital role in bone proliferation and remodeling. So when women get to their menopause stage, naturally the estrogen levels drops down. And when this drops down, it directly have an effect on the rate at which bone cells are being made in the body. Okay. So if you have low estrogen levels, that means the rate at which new bone cells are being formed in your system is being reduced. And this is one of the major reasons why it's more likely to have osteoporosis in women compared to the males. And naturally, we know males are very active, always moving, going and coming. And the testosterone levels are also high, even as we keep on with our daily activities. Although men are supposed to get bad because of the estrogen levels that drop, because of the menopause the women go through. That is why they are more likely to get the condition compared to men.
Interesting. All right. So let's look at some of the do's and don'ts.
Okay. So
yes, we're still on the causes. Yeah. Yes, please.
We can also look at lifestyle factors. Yes. So people who smoke and those who take in excessive alcohol. So research has actually made us to understand that if you take in excessive alcohol, the rate at which the body absorbs nutrients that the bone needs, especially with the calcium, the phosphorus that the bone needs to work effectively, it hampers the body's ability to absorb these nutrients. So if you are someone who excessively drinks or takes in alcohol or smoke, you hampers your body's ability to take in some of these nutrients that the bone needs to function effectively. And as a result, it could lead to you having osteoporosis.
Interesting.
Yes. And people who are living a sedentary lifestyle, there are some people who don't exercise, they don't do any form of body movement and then all that. And
you're sitting in one place.
Sitting at one place. If you are moving, instead of maybe a short distance, you can take a walk. You will prefer to be in the car and then go. So the rate of movement is very limited. And what happens is that when there is a lot of mechanical stress on the bone, it helps to stimulate new bone cells to form in your system. And that helps the bones to become more dense. So people who exercise a lot, people who do a lot of physical activities, they have more stronger bones compared to people who are moving less. Yes, because when you are walking, when you are doing exercise, when you are jumping and all that, there is a mechanical load that's on the bone, mechanical load on the bone. And this mechanical load I'm talking about helps with the proliferation of bone cells. And when that happens, it helps to make your bone become more dense and then more stronger. But if there is less impact and there is less movement on the bone, then that means the bone does not get that kind of impact it needs to produce more of the bone cells to help your bones become more dense. So over there, it makes it becomes weak.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned obesity. You mentioned, you know, a few lifestyle changes and all that. And then you also mentioned that, you know, after your mid-30s, you'll have to be careful.
Yes.
You know, what you do and how to. Now, let's look at the conditions that can cause osteoporosis, the medical conditions, that is.
So we can also, the medical condition that we can also talk about is kidney disease. So people who have kidney disease, actually the kidneys helps with the absorption of various minerals, that is calcium and phosphorus in the body. So people who are having kidney diseases have a problem with the rate at which the body absorbs these nutrients. And we know that calcium and then these vitamins, they are very important for bone functioning. So if you're having a kidney disease, that means the rate at which the body is able to absorb these nutrients becomes very limited. And it can affect the rate at which your bone becomes more dense because the body is not getting the right amount of, hormones to make your bone become more dense. The kidney also produces a hormone we call calcitrol. And this calcitrol helps with the regulation of absorption of calcium and phosphorus in the body that the bone normally uses. So if you are having a condition with your kidney, a disease with your kidneys, it hampers the ability of these hormones to also work effectively. And as a result, it can lead to you having a brittle bone. That leads to this osteoporosis we are talking about. And people who also have thyroid conditions, that is hyperthyroidism. So the thyroid hormone actually helps with the rate at which new bones are formed in the human body. So if you have a condition with your thyroid, then that means the rate at which new bone cells are being formed in your system is also being affected. And that condition would also lead to your bone becoming brittle because not too much new bones are being formed to replace the old ones. It makes the bones become weak.
Okay, so long-term medication?
Yes, so the medications, we can talk about corticosteroids. So these are a class of steroid hormones that people use when they are having problem with their cortisol levels. It's a hormone
stress and all that.
Yes, it's a hormone in the human body. The human body actually produces it. But sometimes when there are various conditions, people tend to resort to these hormones to regulate the rate at which the hormone works in the human body. However, when you are on a long-term medication on these steroids, the rate at which cortisol stays in your body becomes very high. And when that happens, it leads to the rate at which your bone absorbs nutrients. It reduces that.
Okay.
Yes. So when you have high cortisol levels in your system, it affects or hampers the rate at which your bone absorbs various nutrients in your system to make the bone function effectively.
But high cortisol level also causes stress, doesn't it?
Yes.
So why would you want to take cortisol?
So there has to be so there has to be that homeostasis, that balance.
Okay.
So when it's more, then it becomes a problem.
Okay.
That is why people resort to taking some of these steroids to maintain the normal level.
Interesting.
So too much of it, it's a problem. Yes.
Definitely a problem. Yeah. All right. So we're looking at the effects of it.
Yes. So we move on to the effect of osteoporosis. So if you're having osteoporosis, we know that your bone becomes more fragile and brittle, and it could also lead to fracture. So the common sites that osteoporosis normally occurs, as we talked about, is the hips, the spine, and then the wrist. So normally, if you're having osteoporosis over a period of time, maybe now your height is like, let's say, 7 feet. You could see after some time, after you've grown up, you've aged to a certain point, sometimes you check your height, you see you have dropped down a little bit.
What? Wait. You shrink?
Yeah, there could
You
be
shrink?
there could be a decrease in your height.
How should that even happen?
Yes, so you see, when we started talking, we were talking about your peak bone, your bone peaking at the age of 30, and after that, a natural condition we call osteopenia, set in. So this is where your bone starts to degrade. It's
Okay.
a natural process.
Okay.
But when it becomes too much, that is where it leads to osteoporosis.
Okay.
So we all go through that stages. So when you get to the age of 30, your bone hits its peak mass, and naturally aging sets in. So the bone mass begins to decrease gradually. It's a natural thing. But if it is too much, that is where it becomes a condition that leads to osteoporosis. So
Interesting.
yes. So what happens is that we've talked about a lot of stuff, the nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, medical conditions, and all that. When all these things comes into play along the line as you age, your bone becomes very fragile, especially your spine. So there could be this form of osteoporosis that happens. And one thing about osteoporosis is it's a condition that is rarely known. If you're having it, it will be very difficult for you to know, unless maybe there is a small fall and then you experience fracture.
Okay.
And then you can know that, oh, then maybe I'm having such a condition.
Okay.
But it's very difficult to show symptoms that you are having osteoporosis.
Oh.
Yes. So over time, when all these conditions we've talked about set in place, your bones become very fragile. And as you continue to move, there is that bit of compression that occurs in your spine, in your vertebrae, and that leads to your height decreasing, going down a little bit.
Hey.
Yes.
If you are vertically challenged like me or Rukaya like that, once I shrinking,
yeah, but it's not that so significant, just
But
a
it's
little
just
bit.
something
Yes, just a little bit.
small.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue with the effects, or will that be all?
Yes, and also we also have posture changes.
Okay.
Yes, so we're talking about the condition affecting your spine. So normally, sometimes we see people, especially those who are very old.
Okay.
You see them, their upper body, they are walking in this way. You see, you will call it kyphosis.
Okay.
So there is a structural deformation in your vertebrae.
Okay, so that's it on your screen.
Yes.
Now that will be the.
So that's a compressed fracture.
The compressed fracture on your right.
Yes, on your right.
Screen.
Yes, that affects the vertebrae. So normally this occurs when osteoporosis sets in. So because the bones are very brittle, when there is a little bit of compression, it's compressed the bones, and it makes it become more brittle like that. So it reduces your height, and then your stature, and then your posture too.
Okay, that's understandable. All right, so
and then also
mobility independence.
Yeah, so we also have back pains.
Okay, so not all back pains are like, oh, my back, or you should go check it. You might probably be developing osteoporosis.
Yes, you might probably be developing osteoporosis. Wow. And yes, all this has to do with
that's when it becomes chronic, like if you have a chronic back pain.
Yes, please.
But not like, like whenever you're like, oh, that's
yeah.
Oh, and they're cool.
Cool levels.
But if
it
somewhere
becomes
like
too much,
6 months, which that's somewhere.
Yeah.
I see.
It could also lead to that, and it also reduces mobility and then independence.
Okay.
Because normally when it happens and then you are having the fracture, movement becomes very difficult because you can't move.
All right. And that quite interesting. So we've looked at the causes. We're looking at that. We've seen the effects of it. We'll be looking at nutrition next.
Yeah.
And then exercising, what we can do, and the kind of exercising we can do, whilst trying to manage it.
Yeah.
All right. So, and that will be Ruka, you'll be taking over, right?
Yes.
All right. So we have to move to the other side of our studio.
Talk about the nutrition.
All right. So let's start off with the nutrition, and then we can hit the floor for the exercise, and that can be done. So we've seen how hormonal imbalance can cause osteoporosis. That means there's something we can eat, right? So let's look at the nutrition.
So, as humans as we are, we have to be mindful of the things we take in, since it can improve your health or it can also alter your health.
Okay.
So, with the bones, there are certain vitamins and nutrients that aid in in your bone health, and we all know calcium is good for bone health, and we have magnesium, vitamin C, vitamin K, and other things that helps to improve our bone health. So with foods like dairy products, we can look at low-fat milk, cheese, and other things, because these foods contains calcium as well as vitamin D, which helps our bones to develop well and also improves its health. We can also look at leguminous food, such as beans, any form of leguminous products. They help to improve our bone health. Some contains magnesium and calcium. So like the red beans and then the lima beans. We can also look at fish. The canned sardines and salmons also contains calcium and vitamin D. The fatty fish like mackerel and tuna also contains vitamin D, which helps to improve our bone health. And with the fruits, we can look at oranges, which also contains vitamin C, and then
pomegranates and
then banana, which contains magnesium and potassium. Then we have the vegetables with the green leafies like kontomire, bokoboko, bitter leaf. They all come together to help they help to improve our bone health, and then reduces the rate at which it also reduces the rate at which we lose our bones. Yes. And then we can look at other foods like the fortified foods. We have cereals and juice, which contains calcium and vitamin D. We have the olive oils and omega-3 rich foods, like the flaxseed, which is also
flaxseed oil.
Is also beneficial for our bone health.
Interesting. All right, so these are some of the things we can eat to improve our bone health. So we'll be hitting the mat very soon for the exercise and some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to exercising your bones here. So Emmanuel and Ruka, in fact, Ruka will actually be instructing Emmanuel on what to do or what not to do to make sure that we better our lot, whilst we're treating osteoporosis. All right, so wait, Ruka, please.
So with the exercises, we know how important exercise is, and then research has shown that these categories of exercises helps to improve our bone health, like the weight-bearing activities, resistance exercise, and balance training helps to improve our bone health. So with the weight-bearing activities, we'll look at walking, not just any walking, but brisk walking. So my colleague here will demonstrate brisk walking. It's simply like walking faster. So whilst you engage in this activity, as it's improving your bone health, it's also a form of cardio exercise. It's also work on your heart health. So it's good to engage. It's not
like your normal walk.
Yes, you are used to the normal working.
You're walking. This is when you're moving
faster,
pacing faster.
Yes, because when you walk slowly, you are used to that. Your body is used to that stress. So there's the need to do the brisk walking. And then we have jogging. We all know jogging. We know jogging. It's also good. It's also another form of aerobic exercise. It works on your heart and then as well as the bones. And then we have jumping, and then jumping or no jumping.
Normal jumping.
Yes, normal jumping. Whilst you are doing this,
like if somebody has osteoporosis and is jumping,
so
the hip like that. I mean, like
it will be problematic.
It will be problematic. So how do they exercise?
Yeah, so with the osteoporotic individuals, they need to seek for medical advice from their therapist before they engage in any activity. You just don't get up to go and do anything, because the aim is to make you feel better and not to harm you. So there's the need to consult so that they will either make modifications to the exercise or they change it.
So in your opinion, having learned about the disease, what kind of exercising should they be doing?
Oh, they can also do the exercises, but it has to be minimal. The intensity has to be low. Okay. Yes. Okay. They shouldn't engage in high impact activities. So when it
what should we avoid? You were talking about minimizing the impact. So, for example, if someone who doesn't have osteoporosis is doing 10 with 4 reps, maybe someone with 4 jumps with maybe like 5 reps, someone with osteoporosis should do what? Like 10 with 2?
Yes.
Minimum.
Yes. Okay. To avoid any injuries. So with the exercises to avoid, we can look at exercises that you don't want the person to do exercises that puts the spine in an extreme curvature. Okay. Because we've spoken about that. We said that people who have the osteoporosis at the spine usually have this curvature. So they shouldn't engage in exercises that involves that. Such exercises include crunches. Okay. So he will demonstrate the crunches.
Emmanuel, please take us through the crunches. That's not supposed to be done. Okay. Okay. So
you see, kind of we should avoid exercises that requires the spine to twist and turn. Okay. We should avoid that. And then we have sit-ups. With the sit-ups, you realize that the back arches, which is wrong. We don't want the individual to end up with a fracture. So they should also avoid sit-ups and crunches and all of that. So we can also move on to the we can also move on to certain yogas and Pilates. Yes. So
Pilates are very popular lately, aren't
they? Yes, it is.
Sit down Pilates, wall Pilates, and all that. So which ones should be avoided?
So we should also avoid forward folds.
Okay. Emmanuel, what's that?
Do you see? It also puts...
It arches the back.
Yes. So they should...
Puts pressure.
Yeah. They should also avoid this type of exercise. We have the cobra pose. You see, it's the same thing.
Same. It arches the back.
And it also arches the back, so we don't want that. And then they should avoid certain sports like golf, which involves twisting and turning of the hip, and then the torso. They should avoid sports like tennis as well, too, and then bowling.
Oh, bowling.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
It also requires you to twist
and turn your legs
more. And so there's the need for us to avoid that, since we do not want to put the individual at a risk.
All right. So, Emmanuel, let's wrap it up. Okay. You know, what would be that word of advice that you would give to somebody who's developed osteoporosis?
Okay. So a word of advice I'm giving out is, if you are out there and then you are having osteoporosis, all you can do is that you have to make sure you engage in physical activity, but it shouldn't be just any physical activity. Okay. It has to be more supervised. Okay. And you start out at a low intensity. Okay. It shouldn't be very so high. And as you move on and the bones become strong, you can adjust with the type of exercises you are doing. Okay. And just take your nutrition also very important, because they play a vital role in how your bone functions.
Okay. Look at your final words, whether it be exercise or nutrition.
So just as he said, we are all at a risk of osteoporosis. So there's the need for all of us to engage in exercise. Usually people say, oh, I do physical activity. I walk around, I cook, I go to the market. It's not enough. Exercise is intentional, it is planned, and it is toward a particular goal. So there's the need for all of us to engage in it to avoid some of these conditions.
All right, so if you're battling with osteoporosis, hopefully you've gotten some education. If you've realized you've got chronic back pain for too long, you might want to, go to the doctors and, find out if you're battling with the condition. So that does it. Ruka and Emmanuel, thank you so much, guys, for joining us here on the show today. We're going to go on our journey around the world next year on Studio 5.
100% natural organic mosquito repellent made from pure shea butter and distilled plant essential oil.
Get ready! The Obonu Mega Cash Lucky Box brings big wins. Dial *426*4# on all networks. Follow the prompts, pick your lucky box, and win instant cash. It's that simple. Dial *426*4# on all networks or play on our web portal, gbcghanaonline.com, and win up to 500,000 Ghana cedis. Remember to follow prompt, play now, and win big with Obonu Mega Cash Lucky Box. A minimum of 5 Ghana cedis to play. Your lucky box awaits. The Obonu Mega Cash Lucky Box. *426*4#. Win big and win large. Terms and conditions apply. It's annually approved on the Caritas Lottery platform.
Hello, Ghana. Get ready for the unforgettable Bobobo Easter Fiesta. Join us on Easter Sunday, 20th April 2025 at Mofra Place, Jolu, Accra at 12 noon. Witness the thrilling performances by the 2024 National Bobobo Champions, Elon, Elikem, and Asogli Bobobo groups, plus a special performance by the All Ladies Agbada Group. Early bird tickets at just 70 cedis before the 1st of April 2025. Tables for 10, 5, and 1. Available with exclusive benefits. Dial *920*922# to buy tickets or book a table. Media partners: GBC, GH Media, and Hotel FM, Top Radio, and Global FM Ho. Call 0539-984-990 or 0270-000043. Bobobo Easter Fiesta, where culture, music, and heritage come alive.